Bangladesh has announced elections, the country's first since Sheikh Hasina's ouster. The Bangladesh Awami League has closely reviewed the election schedule announced by the illegal occupying killer fascist Yunus Clique's illegal election commission. That is what the Bangladesh Awami League has said. And they have also added it is now clear that the current occupying authority is entirely biased and that under its control it is impossible to ensure a fair and normal environment where transparency, neutrality and the people's will can be reflected. And the Bangladesh Awami League has rejected the announcement of the election schedule that excludes the representatives of the majority of the country's peoples. That was the statement that was given by Bangladesh Awami League, but I will be going over to the big wall over there to explain to you exactly the other kind of coverage we are talking about, the global media coverage, how they have been reacting in terms of the February election that is set to take place in Bangladesh. Obviously, in 2026, this is something that comes after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. First of all, we'll take a look at Al Jazeera. According to the headline, it says Bangladesh sets February election after a year of political upheaval. And in their article, they have stated that Bangladesh prepares for a pivotal vote as the interim government struggles to restore stability and trust. The announcement comes as the interim administration struggles to steady the political landscape, as well as the caretaker government led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus has faced renewed demonstrations over delays to political and institutional reforms promised after Hasina's removal from power. Now, another article, and the headline reads, it's by Reuters, and it says, Bangladesh to hold first vote since uprising president to quit. And analysts have stated that voters' concerns include restoring democratic rule, reviving the core export-driven garment industry, and repairing ties with giant neighbor India, which have been strained by New Delhi taking in Hasina. So that's another article and another global media coverage when you're talking about that, where the headline focuses on the fact that this comes after the fact that first uprising during Sheikh Hasina, which led to her ouster. And another one is when we're taking a look, the headline reads Bangladesh to hold general elections on February 12, first since ouster of Sheikh Hasina's government. And they have stated, but Bangladesh announced that general elections and a referendum on state institution reforms would be held in mid-February next year, marking a significant shift in the country's political landscape since former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled to neighboring India in the face of an uprising on August 5 last year. So obviously, it's a big pivot right now in Bangladesh. This will be the first election that will take place after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. And now Associated Press has stated that, and the headline reads, Bangladesh to hold national elections in February, the first since 2024 mass uprising. And other parties, including the country's largest Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islami, a newly formed party by the uprising leaders, National Citizen Party, also welcomed the move. Canadian press has, the headline reads, Bangladesh to hold national elections in February, the first since 2024 mass uprising. So that's another global media coverage that we're talking about. The Canadian press has talked about that they are going to hold their national elections, the first since 2024 uprising. Now, the Bastille Post Global has stated, and the headline reads, Bangladesh to hold national elections in February, the first since 2024 mass uprising. Obviously, the important point in all of these headlines is one thing, Sheikh Hasina's ouster. This comes the first election, the first vote after Sheikh Hasina was ousted in 2024 last year. And the repercussions of it are still there in Bangladesh. There's still some level of instability there. There's still a very changing political landscape. And now we've seen Bangladesh Awami League has outrightly rejected the announcement scheduled by the Election Commission, calling it biased and fascist. And now joining me on the telecast is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. Now, Ambassador Veena Sikri, this election is something that comes also highlights the fact that this is a post-Sheikh Hasina pivot. This comes after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. What exactly could the implications be, this election, on the political and geopolitical scenario in terms of Bangladesh? And another question that to that also is, how do you think that this elections could redraw India's security map as well?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is that the regime change operation that ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina last year was had not been recognized as a legal process. The company, the interim regime led by Dr. Mohammed Yunus, is an unconstitutional structure. So this unconstitutional structure, many people are questioning, do they have the right or the authority to call for these elections? Because even the officials have been changed, and, you know, officials whom they wanted, the previous officials were pushed out of office by mobs and so on. So this very process has come under the world scanner. And the second point is that these elections are not inclusive. So they cannot be free and fair because they are not inclusive. They have tried to ban the activities of the Awami League, and they are not allowing them to participate in the elections. Now, this is something that even the people of Bangladesh do not accept, because there was a poll survey, opinion survey conducted and published in the leading Bengali language newspaper of Bangladesh, Pratham Alo. And they said that 70% of those surveyed wanted the Awami League to participate in the elections. So that is the key point, that there must be participatory elections for them to be recognized as democratic and free and fair and so credible. So they cannot be credible if they're not going to be participatory, if they're not going to be inclusive. So it's quite natural that the Awami League has rejected the call for the elections. And I think I must also say that the President of Bangladesh, President Shahabuddin, whose term is there till 2028, he has himself conveyed how he is being humiliated by the present interim regime. That, you know, Dr. Mohammed Yunus has not spoken to him for 8-9 months, and that the President's portrait, which is there, as is the traditional custom in all countries, is there in every embassy of that country abroad. The Bangladesh interim regime has ordered for his portrait to be removed. So there is a lot of unrest. People are not happy with the way in which these elections have been declared. And I think Awami League rejecting the elections could just be the first step. And, you know, depends on what happens next. But I do feel that it is a very unstable process ahead.
And Ambassador Veena Sikri, how do you think that this new electoral landscape, it's a three-way race that is set to take place, what kind of impact would that have on India and the relations between Bangladesh and India?
Well, our government has consistently participatory elections. Just recently, 3-4 days ago, our External Affairs Minister again spoke on this subject. Dr. Jaishankar said that the elections must be inclusive. And I think, you know, you can see the examples of the various regime change operations that have been happening all in South Asia, in Sri Lanka in 2022, in Bangladesh in 2024, and Nepal in 2025. Everywhere in Sri Lanka and in Nepal, there is no question but that the elections have been inclusive. Even the Rajapaksa government was brought down by the students and the young people revolting. When it came to election time, they were allowed to participate. Nobody wanted to ban their participation in the election, because in a democracy, everybody must participate. If the people are unhappy with you, they will not vote for you. That's it. So that is why. And similarly, in Nepal, the elections have been announced. The Prime Minister Oli's government, which was brought down, his party is going to participate in the elections as well. So there is absolutely no reason why the single largest party in Bangladesh, the Awami League, is being banned from participating in the elections. And I think that this is something that the whole world must pay focus on, and India too, because you know, the focus there seems to be to bring a government led by the Jamaat-e-Islami. And the Jamaat-e-Islami, as you know, has always been a B team of Pakistan. And certainly from the security point of view, it will be worrisome for India. But India has always called for free, fair and participatory elections. That is the key, and that is what we have to ensure. Once you have a free, fair and participatory election, whichever party comes to power, the Indian government will be able to talk to them because they represent the will of the people. This present situation will only lead to more instability and more chaos. So that is why I think it is worrisome.
And Ambassador Veena Sikri, my final question to you is, what do you think this means for the Bangladesh Awami League and Sheikh Hasina now? The fact that whatever the ideology and the narrative of the current interim government is, what this means for the future of the Bangladesh Awami League?
Well, I do not think you can write off the future of the Awami League, not at all. Because, as I told you, the opinion poll published just 2 or 3 days ago by the Pratham Halo, they show that people want the Awami League's presence, that the Awami League's vote bank is intact. And actually, at that time last year, July and August last year, when the regime change operation took place, there had been a very strong anti-incumbency feeling against Sheikh Hasina. But over the last 15 months, with all the negatives that the present interim regime has been doing, with all the instability, with all the kind of mobocracy, no law and order, everybody changed just without any kind of constitutional approval or situation. So all this has made the people of Bangladesh say that it was better earlier, it was better under Sheikh Hasina. So the support of the 30-40% vote bank support was anyway always with the Awami League. I think that support is intact and it may even have grown. But in any case, this must be tested out through free, fair and inclusive elections. That's the point. So having an election which is not inclusive is not going to create any kind of stability or long-term, is of no long-term benefit to the people of Bangladesh. And they value, the point is the people of Bangladesh have always valued their democratic structures. And they have fought against the lack of democracy when it was there. When there was a military rule by first President Ziaur Rahman and then President Ershad, it was the democratic parties, the Awami League and the BNP, that came together to bring the government down because they said we want a democratic structure. So that's what has always been there. And
Okay.
I think we should respect the wishes of the people of Bangladesh for an inclusive democracy and for
All right. Yeah. Ambassador Veena Sikri, thank you so much for joining us on the telecast and obviously for